Welcome to the Simply Real Life podcast. I'm Sarah, the founder of Simply Real Health, here to help you simplify, amplify, and elevate your life. This show is for those of you who want the real talk on how to live a more intuitive and intentional life, a life that's healthy from the inside out, and one that feels more effortless, aligned, simple, and more alive. We cover it all, from health, wellness, mindset, motherhood, daily habits and rituals, to business and relationships, creativity and growth, and tiny tricks to feeling your best, and the energetics behind it all filled with personal stories, unfiltered conversations, and of course, answering all of your burning questions, all in the way of simplicity and keeping it real, so that you can create your own version of your healthiest life. Let's do it. Hi, friends. Welcome back to the show this week. I feel like I have not sat down to record an episode in a long time, although that's not actually true. It just feels like it's been a long time. I don't know what is going on with time lately, but I've had so many phases. It feels like in the last 6 months where time is feeling like it's extra slow. And I think that's partly this pregnancy and hyperemesis and having that through the winter. Every day counted, every hour counted, just trying to inch myself closer to health again. And then in the last couple of weeks, I've had both experiences where it feels like it is slow and then it has this rapid passing too. I don't know if any of you are experiencing anything like that, but it feels super fast, super slow, super fast, super slow versus steady. And I'm just trying to catch my breath through it all. So in this week's episode, we're just going to do a little life update because I feel like there has been so much that has been going on, especially over the last couple weeks, the last months. We opened up the Simply Real Life, the Method program, and now that's running. That's like a huge turning point in the year of all this fresh energy and all these great alumni coming back to sit through again. So I'm having so much fun doing that. And there's a certain, I think, contagious energy that comes in the spring every time we open that. So I have been loving that. And then there's all these other things that feel like they're going on at the same time. So today I wanted to share a little bit of behind the scenes of things, what I've been thinking about, what I've been going through, the things I've been loving, little habits, routines, things that are keeping me going, things that are getting me excited, and also the things that I am currently learning and or walking through, because I feel like it's always a mixture of both things. Right? It's always both at once, never just one or the other. So we'll just start this little update, which the biggest thing on my mind lately has obviously been this pregnancy, just because it is starting to feel more real. It's starting to feel much more physical in the sense of like, I can feel the baby growing and kicking, and it's been so amazing. Getting to this phase just feels so good, especially after the last 6 months of being bedridden and out of it completely in all parts of my life. I feel like I'm almost like a little kid getting to re-experience things. Like I just had this lovely trip down to California a couple weeks ago. Some of you probably saw I got to visit the Primarily Pure new regenerative farm, which all that means is old world farming practices where all the animals are roaming pastures and they're all grass fed and they're rotated every day. And it was just really cool. And they're starting to grow their own herbs for all the Primarily Pure skincare products that you know I love. And it was this quick 48-hour trip. And I have been thinking to myself, like, how rare it is as a mom where you get alone time. We all know that. But alone time that is strung together hour after hour. Like a lot of times, if you do get alone time, it's in these tiny pockets of 15 minutes or 5 minutes, or after the kids go down and you have an hour or two before you have to go to sleep. It's always in these small pockets and moments, which I feel like over the past 5 years since I've been a mom, I've gotten to be really good at using those moments to my advantage, or for rest, or for doing things that also refill my cup. But there was something so magical about having an extended block of time. And I really think you could probably get the same feeling Even if you stay in town, like you don't have to travel anywhere, going overnight to a hotel room, or if you have friends going out of town, maybe you go stay at their house for the night and the next day. But just having that little block of space felt so magical. And I think probably as an empath, just to be in my own energy and not thinking about all the millions of things that our kids need at every moment of every day, including meals and snacks and coordinating everything. You're like a logistics and operations manager. And to have that sense of space was so, I don't know, it felt so good. So now I've had this thought where I wonder if this would be a great thing to really try to incorporate in my life more consistently, like not just when I get an invitation to go somewhere, but more consistently. Like, could I do that once a quarter? Could I take a night away because of how regenerative it really felt? Like, truly, it was so nourishing to get to pick what I wanted to eat, to go at the time that I wanted to go. And I want to start incorporating that a little bit more. So we're going to figure out how that works in our family and our life. But Kyle's totally on board. And I just wanted to share that because I know that there's so many moms in this community. And I think it can look a lot of different ways. But having just alone time, I think it can also be just as regenerative going with a girlfriend or two or some of your close friends. But that can also be a different trip because you are coordinating with other people and taking their preferences and needs into account versus having time where it's just you and your coffee or your matcha or whatever you want to eat that day or whatever schedule you want to have, however late you want to sleep. So that's something I really am going to start plugging in my calendar. And granted, every season that's not always going to be possible. I'm thinking about life with a newborn particularly. But I think as practice, that has been something huge. So also during that trip was the first time I have really felt pregnant. I have such a different experience, I think, with pregnancy than a lot of women because I basically feel horrible for the first 2 trimesters. I am like 1 week away right now from my 3rd trimester. And I'm really excited for that because 3rd trimester for me, which for most women is the time when they start to feel really horrible, like physical aches and pains. They're noticing all these different things going down and maybe not sleeping so great and insomnia and everything's heavier. You're holding this giant watermelon all day in everything that you do. But for me, 3rd trimester is like, it's the best. It's like I finally feel like I have my energy back. I finally feel like I have my appetite back. I can eat more normally, according to my norms of what I like to eat and the way I like to feel my body. I also, because I get so sick for that amount of time, it doesn't really get uncomfortably for me physically until way later, like closer to actually giving birth. So I'm curious if that's going to be the case this time because granted, this is my 3rd child that I have carried. And I think there are always these funny symptoms that start to come in around that time. So I've been noticing some of them and it's wild to me how different they are than the symptoms I had with my other 2. And they're new. They're like brand new things. And I'm like, I don't remember this from last time. For example, one of them being really itchy skin, which is just a very funny thing. So I've been obsessed with my Primarily Pure body butter. I feel like that is the best. I've used that in all my pregnancies, like on my belly, but this time I'm like full coat, like head to toe when I get out of the shower at night and when I'm laying in bed. And that itchiness is new. What else is new? Like your spine is kind of adjusting. So sometimes getting a little bit of pelvic pain. If I'm going on a walk that's longer than 20 minutes, that's kind of new. So all these little things, but mostly it is a season of just joy and appreciation. And I can finally let it sink in and enjoy being pregnant and start to spend a little bit more time actually thinking about this baby, meditating and really trying to connect with this soul that's about to come into our family. I know that as I progress through the 3rd trimester, I love doing that more and more, working up to almost every day, spending some time visualizing them and thinking about birth and breathing and doing more meditations. So that's kind of where things are at. I'm really hoping in the next week I start to feel better my energy and the nausea is still, the energy is not consistent. The nausea is still there, especially in the afternoons and evenings. And so I am just making my way through that. I can now cook dinner for my family, but I can't really eat any of it or most of it. So I'm just feeling hopeful for that third trimester, maybe. Like, let's go. That third trimester is my jam. So something else that has been fun, I think in theory, I can't quite eat dinner, but otherwise with food, I can definitely feel my creativity coming back and thinking of new recipes that sound good. And so I've been doing that earlier in the day of starting to play and test and adding a bunch more recipes into the cooking club lately, because there's something about spring and summer where there's just so many more fresh foods in season that it's just so fun to play with all of the new things that have been virtually non-existent through the winter and a lot of the spring. So I've been loving that lately and just thinking about more salads. And those are the types of things that are sounding good to me too. That piece has definitely been missing up until this point, and just trying to keep it really simple. But now I feel like, ooh, I want to play with this, or I have an idea for that, or I want to try this type of salad or something I've made similar to this, but let's change a couple things and see how it goes. So I'm really excited for summer and to be cooking, also to be starting my garden again. This past weekend, I finally went to the nursery, and we're still in the phase of trying to fill in a lot of our yard with plants. Every year it's been this slow thing where we add a couple more and a couple more. We did a lot of the baseline, just basic planting when we redid our whole backyard. That was 2 years ago. And so now I get to do more of the fun things, like let's add in some more flowers and what textures do we need, and looking at heights of things, and definitely getting back into gardening, which was so fun to do with the kids last year. And as with everything, every year you learn a little bit more. So I have some things I'm like, okay, I probably wouldn't plant as many tomatoes. They didn't do as great in our yard as I had hoped. I may try like a side container of that. But having fresh herbs is one of my favorite things that I did last year. And they last for a really long time. So having chives and rosemary and thyme and lavender and parsley and cilantro made cooking so flavorful, especially if you're grilling, or a lot more salads or bean style salads or deli style salads. Having some fresh herbs on top is one of the best ways you can add flavor. And it's so easy to do, even if you don't have a garden space, just finding a big bowl or a big pot that has drainage holes in the bottom of them. And you can plant quite a few different herbs in those, even to have something on your deck or out on your patio. So that's the thing I'm most excited is growing my own bigger herb garden this year, because I found that there was so many things that we used it for. Mint, like making fresh mint tea. It was really a fun thing and an easy thing. So if you're in the beginning of looking at gardening or thinking about it, or you're scared you don't have a green thumb, I would totally suggest starting with that. And then I've been doing more continuous learning into gardening itself, and what types of plants thrive, and what flowers am I really liking, and how long do they last, and when do you have to plant them? It's this whole complex matrix, which I feel like is fun. It's fun to have a hobby and things you're learning and things that you are a beginner at and that you don't know about yet. And you try them. Some are big time fails and some are big time wins. I'm just also really looking forward to that season and being able to have stuff just right in our backyard that makes cooking so much easier and so much more inspiring. Herbs can make it taste so different, even the same basic foods. What else? I've started my sourdough again. It takes about 5 days to make the starter, and I'm really excited for that again. I mean, it starts to produce 2 loaves a week, and I love doing that, especially in the summer, because it makes sandwiches so easy to take to the beach, or to do open face sandwiches at night for dinner, and toast in the morning. I don't know. It's so fun. And I think this year the kids are going to be way more interested in it. It's a big commitment, which is why I go in and out of doing it. But I'm feeling a little bit more bandwidth and excitement to be back in the kitchen again. So that has been one of the other things, to like tend things and to grow them and to play and experiment. Same with gardening, same with cooking. I mean, there's so many different things that I found in the last couple of years that have really helped me step into my feminine energy a little bit more. And for those of you who've been around for a long time, you know how I talk about this like a lot and probably in passing. But having these spaces and activities and hobbies that really help me get out of the energy of the constant operations manager mode of motherhood that it can be, and also the very masculine energy that it takes to run a business. So finding these little hobbies and ways for myself to remember to tap into my feminine and how good it feels to play and go with the flow and just try and test and experiment and doing it in a way that is relaxing, but also feels to me productive. Growing your own food or making your own bread or whatever it may be. I've been finding more and more ways to keep incorporating that because I feel like so much of my normal daily life right now is in my masculine, which is a wonderful thing. I think we need both. We need both energies to be able to tap in and out of into our life and not just living only in one. So for me, because I tend to live mostly or a lot of the times, a lot of my day in that masculine mode, having these other hobbies and things that I'm learning about that help me relax into my feminine side a little bit more. Another little tiny thing I've been doing to help myself and remind myself of that is listening to music, even more than podcasts lately, but how much it changes your mood and your energy to put on a playlist, right? Or listen to music. I've been obsessed with Beyonce's new album. So in the car, instead of always listening and consuming information or content or even on walks, to be listening to music again. And it just is like a whole different energy and way that I have found to quickly tap in and change my energy if I'm wanting to do that. What else? Other things I've been loving. Doing little walking meditations, especially in the morning if I can get up in time. I've been doing this game with myself where I try to set my alarm 5 minutes earlier because I'm starting from this season of I was sleeping almost until 8 o'clock when I was so sick. And so now I've been slowly working my way back, started setting an alarm maybe at 6:50, and then it moved. The next week was 6:40, and then last week was 6:30. So I kind of do like a couple days in the 5 minutes, and then I'll move it back like 5 minutes. And so that has been like a little game for myself and also a way to try and get that special morning time to myself, reboot my energy to really get grounded for the day. And I always do my foam rolling and my back and core exercises. And that takes about 5-10 minutes. And then since I've had a few more minutes doing the 10-minute walking meditation, I love Melissa Woodhealth's walking meditations has been just great, like a little fresh air. I get the cold air of the morning, got to bundle up, but I always feel so much better when I do. And then it leads me into other things like I'm coming back through the backyard. There's my TRX strap. Maybe I check the monitors if the kids are still sleeping and can do 5 or 10 minutes of that. So that has been also another thing I've been loving, that like setting your alarm a little earlier until you get to the place where you feel like you are getting in pretty solid start to your day. And I know that this is different for everyone, but for me as a mom in this stage of motherhood with really young kids, having that alone time, finding those little pockets for yourself has been great, and also has required me going to bed on time. So the two go hand in hand for sure. Last thing that has definitely been on my heart and my mind, and this has been for quite a while. I mean, I think this started when I was sick and in bed being pregnant. And that has been this total evaluation of the ways that I'm running my business and the things that we've been focusing on, and just checking in with myself. Like, is that still feeling good? Is that still feeling relevant? Is that still feeling fun to teach or to talk about? And are there any things that I could be weeding out here that are maybe taking up my time, my space, my energy, and it doesn't really feel like it's in total alignment anymore? And it has been shocking how many things I have found where the way that I was doing it was fine, but when I did have those months to actually sit and reflect and have so much time to truly ask myself those hard questions. I have found so many things to either get rid of, to stop doing, to question, to think about a little bit deeper. And you kind of are probably noticing this theme of like weaving in a little bit more of that alone time and that reflection time, I think has really been helping me as I start to envision not only what is life going to look like and feel like as a working mom running a business with 3 kids coming up, but what does that look like in our life and how is that feeling for me on the inside, and making sure that I am being okay with letting things go and being okay with growing and evolving. And there's been a lot here that I've had to really work through of I've been doing it this way for 10 years, or because I've been running my business for over 13, 14 years, blogging for more than 15. There are so many things and moments I catch myself being like, oh, it's just because it's the way I've always done it. That doesn't mean there's not a different option or a different way to approach that same thing or a different way to do that same thing. And maybe it doesn't change the output of what comes out, but maybe it changes the way it feels as the work is being done. One of the big realizations I have had is that I have this deeper calling. This comes from thinking about being a mom to 3 and also running a business, but also it's coming in as I think about the next decade of Simply Real Health. In like a couple years, I'll be turning 40. And so I think this has started this process in my mind of like, what do I want it to look like when I'm mid 40s, when I'm in my 50s? Like, what do I want Simply Real Health to be and to feel like? And what do I want to be spending my time doing? And is that any different? Is that vision any different than how I'm doing things now? I think that it's not like a rapid change, but there are quite a few things that I see and want and desire for that future version of me and the future version of Simply Real Health that I currently am not doing at all. And when I get really honest with myself about, well, why, or is there a way that I could start that now or try that now? So much of it comes down to fear, which is just so interesting. And I know personally that anytime I can identify the feeling of fear or nervousness or uncertainty, or would anybody even do that? Would anybody even like that? So much of that came to be even starting this podcast. I had so much fear that I could identify, and fears I really had to get honest with myself and work through. I mean, same types of fears that came in when I started a business, same types of fears when I thought about becoming a mother for the first time. Like anytime you see or feel or can recognize or identify fear in your life, it's one of the biggest blessings. Now when I feel it, I'm like, ooh, yes, like there's something juicy there. There's something there that hasn't quite been uncovered. And to get curious about that and why, and be honest with probably the old stories that you're telling yourself or reasons why you're trying to talk yourself out of something that does make you excited when you think about it. But then when you go to take action, you start blocking yourself and you're like, can I really do this? And you have a lot of doubt. So I'm noticing some of that fear coming in again, which to me feels exciting. To me feels like, ooh, like, yes, there's something here. And so one of the things that I have been really thinking about is how much I love coaching and teaching in smaller, intimate group containers. And to me, this has always been why Simply Real Life, the method, is my favorite thing to do every year, because I feel like there's something in me that comes alive when I am answering questions live and engaging and learning about people's lives. And there's a different way that my brain works where I have all of these different ideas of things that people could do or things that they could try. And I think it is one of my gifts. And it's why I love being able to do that every single year. One of the things I've been thinking about lately is how could I incorporate that more? Because I think I'm getting to the phase and stage in my business where I don't really care about being the biggest. I don't really care about being the most well-known or having the most amount of followers. What I really care about is impacting people in their individual lives. It's why I have always loved doing one-on-one coaching. But there is something magical in a group. So I've had this thought, this desire, and then I get all this fear that comes in of what if I could find a way to be able to take people a little deeper. Simply Real Life is the most foundational, amazing place to start. But how could I help people continue that journey or start that journey from a different vantage point? Maybe they haven't done Simply Real Life, but having the experience of leading and coaching and teaching people in smaller group containers. So that's something I'm challenging myself to do and to figure out how that looks and what that would be for and what the format would be. But it's something that you're hearing it now. That's something I really want to try and maybe run some pilot groups because I feel like it is something that I would love to be doing more of and currently don't have that type of container. Just sharing something that's been on my mind and heart and something I've had to journal about a lot and remind myself about, like when I have all of the reasons why I can't or shouldn't or whatever they may be for that day, of coming back to, well, then why would this desire be here? Or why would that be in the future vision that I have? And finding ways to make those future things that we can feel into, that would feel really good and really in alignment and really what I would love to do more of. And then walking that back of how can I start doing that now? Like what's blocking me from doing that right now? If I see that in the future, why not right now? So that's something I'm currently learning, going through, thinking about, having a lot of conversations in my own head about how that could look and focus in the time and energy and space that I do have. One last other funny thing. I think it's something about this time of year, but I have been loving going through my closet and consigning a bunch of stuff. Like, okay, I loved this shirt or loved this dress, but I'm ready to have that move along to somebody else now. So that has been kind of a fun project to look through some internal spaces. I'm not great about doing it. I do it a couple times a year, but I'm in one of those phases right now. And when I do that for something like my closet, it makes me look at things like my drawers, makes me look at how things are organized in our home, maybe call it nesting. But that has been a fun thing to follow. Okay, I think that summarizes some of the big things. If you guys have questions about anything that I talked about or mentioned or want to know more details on, just let me know. But as always, thank you for being here and thank you for asking questions or sharing with me. Like, love it when you do these life updates. I love hearing what's going on in your mind, not just the things that we see on Instagram, but what's going on deeper in my heart and in my thoughts. We all have so many different seasons in our lives. We're constantly growing, and that requires taking some pauses, finding little spaces where we're to ourselves, where we can reflect a little bit more, asking the hard questions. And I think that's a normal part of every season, at least for me. Maybe it's different for others. So sharing part of that, I think, can be really helpful as you think about what are the things in your own life that you're maybe wanting to shift or think about where you are now and the vision that you're holding for yourself in the future. Is there any discrepancy in those things? Are there any things you're wishing you had more time for, or things that you're wanting to try, wanting to play, making sure that we make a little bit of time for that. So I hope this episode encourages you to do that in your own life, and we'll see you back here next week.
If you enjoyed this episode and want more like it, make sure you're subscribed to the Simply Real Life podcast wherever you listen to podcasts, and maybe share it with a friend or two. That would mean the world.